Our brains are full of electricity. These impulses that travel between neurons are the reason we can think, feel, and perceive the world. Though some of this function is still a mystery, we do know what happens when that electrical activity doesn't work quite right. Seizures are caused by interruptions in normal brain signals. And when a person's brain is chronically in a state of abnormal electrical activity, it leads to epilepsy. Since there's no cure for the condition, Dr. Barbara Yost, a neurologist who specializes in epilepsy, says disease management is the next best option.
There are 3.4 million people in the US who have epilepsy, and about 70% of those patients respond to regular seizure medications, but there are 30% that, despite all efforts with seizure medications, are not seizure-free. And the goal in epilepsy is seizure freedom.
Yost is a professor and chair of neurology in the Geisel School of Medicine at Dartmouth College. She says that if medications fail, there are other options.
There are other treatments, such as epilepsy surgery, where we basically take out a piece of brain to eliminate the seizures. There are brain stimulators for epilepsy. There are also stimulators that go in the chest for epilepsy.
And while some of these patients could be seizure-free through surgery or daily medication, there are other effects of epilepsy that Yost says are often underrepresented.
There is also associated depression, and there is also often associated memory loss. And those things we don't have any cure for so far. So we can make things better. We can make the seizures go away. We can make patients having a very meaningful life, and you can have a totally normal life with having epilepsy. However, it's not like a surgery, whatever. You have appendicitis and you take out the appendix and everything is cured and you never think about it. This is not likely that this is going to happen.
Especially since for some of these patients, none of the treatments lessen their seizures. In these cases, Yost says that they move forward with helping these people live with the disease.
A lot of those patients can't drive, have difficulties maintaining a job. So it's our job to support those people, eliminate the stigma, and also help patients where we, despite best efforts, we're not able to totally eliminate the seizures, to kind of get them through and make them live a meaningful life.
Since there are so many people who are drug resistant, epilepsy researchers have been thinking of ways to treat the condition and improve quality of life without medication. One big theory is that music can be an effective therapy. In fact, an idea now called the Mozart Effect was first introduced in the early 1990s, when scientists claimed that Mozart's sonata for 2 pianos in D major had a positive effect on spatial reasoning. Then in 1998, other researchers found that when they played the same piece for epileptic patients, there was a reduction in electrical spikes, called interactile epileptiform discharges, or IEDs.
These are discharges of the brain that occur in between seizures. The patient doesn't notice them, but they are a measure and an indication that you have seizures and epilepsy. And actually, my group has done quite a bit of work that those indirect epileptiform discharges, so these abnormal, very brief electrical events, they are far shorter. They're like a hundredth of a second. They're really short, but they can interfere with your memory, for example. They are a good measure of how much electricity goes awry in your brain if you have seizures. And that's why we use it in science, these IEDs, to measure kind of abnormal electrical activity in the brain.
And though the 1998 study showed positive results, the scientific community was split on how much they believe this specific piece of music could affect IED activity.
So there are papers who confirm this effect, and then there are papers who say, oh, it's all not true. And there's quite a bit of discussion around this. Is this a true effect or not?
Yost herself was a non-believer. Despite her feelings, she decided to use the Mozart piece in one of her recent studies as a comparison to her actual objective.
I have to honestly say, when I read it initially, I'm like, I don't think this is true. It doesn't seem like something like this could have any truth in that. And so when we were looking for a comparator, we kind of said, okay, maybe we do this Mozart sonata and some noise and, these other tones and modulate the Mozart with the other tones and see what effect it has on IEDs. And I honestly believe it would.
But Yost was proven wrong. The Mozart music did have an effect on the IEDs. Still, not quite able to wrap her head around it, but willing to push forward, Yost repeated the experiment, which was published in Scientific Reports in 2022. To help test the theory, they included other music in the research as well.
Music that has the same spectral pattern than that Mozart sonata, music that the patients liked. So it was like, is it just that the patient likes the music, they feel better, and that's why they have less of these epileptiform discharges? And lo and behold, only Mozart did do the trick again.
In addition to only the Mozart piece creating a positive effect, Yost found that the longer they played it for the patients, the greater the effect. After the team realized that patients were only responding to Mozart's sonata, they thought that maybe work by other similar composers could elicit the same response.
We tried Chopin, Liszt, Wagner, modern music. We did not find the same effect in that. I'm sure there's other music that has the same effect. It's just so far, it has not been found yet beyond Mozart. Also, interestingly enough, there had been a study where they played the same piece with string instruments, and that did not have the same effect.
Which means that Yost and her team have a long road ahead of them. There's an infinite number of ways to change a song, so now they have to find the magic formula that decreases IED activity.
So you can change the timbre, the tempo, the instrument, the interpreter, whatever. You can change so many things.
And once that's figured out, they move on to what the optimal length of time is to play this music, and how many times it should repeat, if at all. But one important note is that this research is still in the early stages, so much so that Yost has only shown that it reduces IEDs, not specifically that it reduces seizures or improves memory. Those claims are still years away from being proven one way or the other.
I am not all saying it's all true. I'm not in one or the other camp. I am kind of open to anything that is scientifically valid. But if we really don't know, then we need to really study it and see what is really the truth. And if there's some truth into it or not. Our therapies are always focused on a pill or a chemical substance. And I think we should consider other therapy modalities.
You can find more information about Dr. Barbara Yost and all of our guests on our website, radiohealthjournal.org. For more behind the scenes, follow Radio Health Journal on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Our writer-producer is Kristen Farah. Our executive producer is Amira Zaveri. I'm Elizabeth Westfield.